Welcome. My name is Earl Amin, and you're listening to the 2020 Foresight Podcast, where CEOs, presidents, and leaders of small to global companies share their insights. It is 6 questions in 9 minutes because leadership knows how to listen and be concise. So let's get to it. First of all, welcome. And in just a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Earl. I'm Jeff Burgess. I'm founder and CEO of BCD. We're an Illinois, USA-based global OEM manufacturer of enterprise video surveillance recording appliances. We currently have over 175,000 systems currently recording video and analytics in 91 countries around the world, from retail stores, stadiums, hospitals, manufacturers, schools, along with both the U.S. and global federal government facilities and armed forces. Very proud of that.
Outstanding. Well, you should be. Well, given all of that, what's the best thing about being the CEO of BCD?
Well, besides that, we're working on really great technology and landing it in the coolest places in the world. Believe it or not, it's the pressure to perform. It keeps my heart rate up. It's challenging myself to succeed and being able to visualize an outcome and then putting together the team to pursue it, hopefully successfully. That's what really drives me.
Good answer. Now, in your pathway, I've heard from leaders, you've heard from leaders that say that leading a team is challenging enough, but that leading a team and having to see the road ahead can be an even greater challenge. What are your thoughts?
Well, cliche as it's going to sound, I really do try and lead by example. I have done virtually every job in this company. In fact, I started in the industry 40 years ago as a company shipper, and have no issue whatsoever in rolling up my sleeves and pitching in wherever the help is needed. All the company's team members have a blank canvas to create masterpieces on daily. And, we take carpe diem to habiri diem, which is own the day, not just seize the day, but own the day.
Excellent. That's where it lands right there. Own it. So what key piece of insight do you want to share with and for the benefit of other CEOs, other leaders?
That's a really great question. I guess there's 2, and I learned this from my mentor, again, 40 years ago when I first started in this industry as a shipper, and we won a state contract in Texas, by the way, and did not have access to the product that it was won with. And I questioned the owner saying, well, that's great news, but we don't have the product. And he said, well, we will now. And sure enough, we did. The next day, they were up the highway with a bottle of champagne and a contract. So the first deal I've ever learned in this industry was first get the deal, then worry about it. And that's really never, ever failed me. I'm not saying I always made money on it, but I never lost money on it either. And I was always in the game, right? If you're in the game, things happen. And other than that, follow your gut, because your heart gets broken and your brain tends to overanalyze things. And by the time you decide what to do, that window could be long gone and it got awarded somewhere else. And trust your people as they trust you, because if you embolden them to push buttons in each other, you're going to have yourself a great team working with you, not for you.
Well said. Well said.
Well, thank you, Earl.
Well, tell me, in your journey, 40 years plus, what other successful CEOs like yourself would you like to acknowledge and should be on a podcast?
Well, there's so many out there. I would tell you, I'd say, top of my head, Alexander Fernandez of a company called Vigilon. And they're actually a major competitor of ours. But I do have that much respect for what that company does for a living.
Okay, fair enough. We received that. Now for the final question, Jeff, how do you celebrate a win?
30 seconds of internal combustion, just taking it all in. And then I let it out with a yes.
Very good. That works. All right. So it's been a pleasure. Indeed, you do. I can tell that. It's been a pleasure having you on today, Jeff. Tell me, how can people find you?
My email address is jburgess@bcdinc.com or at our website at www.bcdinc.com. And I'm sure you can find me on Google and definitely on LinkedIn.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks for having me, Earl.
All right.
As you reached out to me. Thank you, sir.
Indeed. This is Earl Amin with the 2020 Foresight Podcast. For more insights, go to LinkedIn and search for The Gray Owl Company. Jeff, thank you. It's been a great pleasure.
I salute you. Thank you.
From one dynamic CEO to another, from one impactful company to another, up next is an equally great leader worthy to be listened to. First of all, welcome, and in just a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Thanks, Earl. My name is Scott Marshall. First of all, I'm a son, a brother, a husband, and a father. Those are key traits that define me. I'm also the president and CEO of the Institute for Shipboard Education. This institute is a nonprofit that operates the Semester at Sea program. Some of you may be familiar with Semester at Sea. We are a program, study abroad program, that's been around since 1963, taking students to countries around the world, teaching them about the interconnectedness and global understanding of the world. My previous life was as a professor of business with a focus on business strategy. And fundamentally, I believe deeply in the power of transformation that comes from experiential learning in different cultural environments.
Outstanding. Well said. Well, tell me, what's the best or your most favorite thing about being the president and CEO?
Earl, the best thing is constantly learning. I am by nature, by DNA, a lifelong learner. And I think being a CEO requires someone to be absolutely committed to constantly learning so that we think clearer, we communicate better, we plan more soundly. It's a very demanding role. And to do it well, I feel like I have to be committed every day to my own growth so that I can nurture the teams around me. So really, it's fundamentally my commitment to my growth,
Sure.
to learning, and I really enjoy that.
Indeed. Now, I hear, and I'm sure you do as well, from other leaders that, leading a team and being able to see the road ahead can be a challenge. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Earl, you've probably heard this before. It goes something like, forecasting is difficult, particularly when it's about the future.
Yes.
The future is uncertain by its very essence, and yet looking ahead is essential. And a CEO's role is to peer into that future with as much clarity as possible, setting the direction, scenario planning, being able to adjust to external changes as they come. So for sure, to be able to think into the future, make decisions amidst uncertainty is key. And I would say that a CEO must listen broadly, must listen deeply and within in order to be able to do this. So it's a trait that I think is oftentimes talked about, but maybe the least often developed deliberately in leadership. So to look ahead by this listening skill, you have to develop a team that's highly collaborative and highly trusting. We have to be able to empower our team as well as trust our teams. And with that kind of trust, we can do a decent job of looking into the future. But we can also be able to adjust when the environment changes. And I think that happens best when we listen deeply and we build collaborative teams.
Again, well said. And out of that, what particular piece of key insight do you want to share with and for the benefit of other leaders? Now, you've given us quite a few, but what particular key?
Yeah, Earl, I think that one of the challenges a president CEO faces is balancing sustainability of the organization with the health and welfare of its people. And sometimes they can be juxtaposed. And fundamentally, I believe they are not in conflict. I believe they are complements to each other. that we don't ever want to find ourselves prioritizing one over the other, that we want to hold both equally all the time. And I hope that I can continue to do that. It's something I'm attentive to both in heart and mind every day. And I hope every CEO thinks about how they can hold both of those equally all the time, rather than ever thinking of them being in tension with each other.
Very good. Very good. And agreed. Now, in your journey to where you are today, what other successful CEOs, leaders like yourself, would you like to acknowledge or give a shout out to and should be on my podcast?
Yeah, Earl, I have 3 recommendations, and I thought about this for a while. I've come to the conclusion that I want to give you some people who are real paradigm shifters. So one is Brandon Hill. Brandon Hill is the CEO of Vori, V-O-R-I, which is a food distribution operation. And I think he is really shifting, his company is really shifting how food is distributed in an environment where, of course, food has been distributed for a long time, but really bringing innovation to that industry. Second, Abby Falik, that's F-A-L-I-K. She's the founder and CEO of an organization called Global Citizen Year, focused on gap year students, really building their leadership skills. And third is an individual called John Stevens. He's the CEO of the BOMA Project, which empowers women entrepreneurs in Kenya. So very different types of organizations, but I would say these 3 CEOs would be wonderful on your podcast and are exemplars as leaders.
Outstanding. Thank you. We received that. Now, for the final question, how do you celebrate a win?
Yeah, so first of all, wins are always team-based. Wins are always team-based. That is not a cliche, it's not trite, it's just the truth. Wins are always team-based. Yes. So for sure, I have to share that I've never been great at celebrating my own wins or something that I think I accomplished. I always look forward, but have come to realize that that is maybe a characteristic for myself, but I have to be able to celebrate when wins happen. It has to be recognized. People have to feel like accomplishments have been made. So how to do it? Sometimes it's actually very simple. Drop by a Starbucks or a Whole Foods or some kind of, and pick up some gift cards.
Yeah.
It takes a little time. It takes a little bit of your own personal resources. Put those in a card, write a thank you note, and hand it to those people who you want to recognize. It is, again, a small but significant way to recognize people that have accomplished something that's really important to the organization. Sometimes you have to celebrate a win in a much more significant way. Call together all the staff. Make sure that those who contributed most are called out. Make sure that the organization recognizes the contribution this makes to the whole organization moving forward. So sometimes it can feel very simple, sometimes it takes much more time, but they have to be celebrated, and we have to recognize that they're all team-based.
Very good. Very good. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on today. Tell me, how can people find you?
Sure. Again, Scott Marshall, President and CEO of Semester at Sea. We have a website, semesteratsea.org, easily found through a search. Go to the staff page. You can find my email address there. I'm very active on LinkedIn under my own profile, Scott Marshall. Of course, Semester at Sea is also very active on all the standard social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and so forth. You can't find me on TikTok, though, sorry. But definitely can find me on LinkedIn and find Semester at Sea through any kind of search.
Excellent. This is Earl Amin with the 2020 Foresight Podcast. For more insights, go to LinkedIn and search for The Gray Owl Company. Right. Oh, Scott, I'm sorry. Awesome. Just awesome. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for the time. I really enjoyed prepping for this, and I love the efficiency and the depth yet that it's achieved. So thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the 2020 Foresight Podcast, where CEOs share who they are and what they do in the world that makes a difference. For more entrepreneurial and life-changing insights, do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes accounts. All of the links are available below. See you in the next episode.